The email arrived early that morning, not with a loud notification, not with an urgent alert, just a quiet message sitting in her inbox. She noticed it while she was still in bed, scrolling through her phone the way she always did before getting up. Half asleep, half aware. The subject line was simple. No exclamation points, no dramatic words, just her name. For a moment she assumed it was nothing important, probably another newsletter, another promotion, another message she would open later and forget about 5 minutes after reading it. She almost ignored it. Her finger hovered above the screen. Then something made her pause. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe it was that strange feeling people get sometimes. The quiet sense that something small might matter more than it appears. She sat up in bed. The room was still dim. Morning light was beginning to enter through the curtains, but the apartment was mostly silent. She opened the message and started reading. The email was shorter than she expected, only a few lines. But those few lines carried more weight than most of the messages she received. They had seen her work, they liked what she wrote, and they wanted to talk. A meeting, an interview, an opportunity. For a moment she wondered if the message had been sent by mistake. She read it again, slowly, carefully. Every word stayed the same. She placed the phone on the bedside table and stared at the ceiling. The room was quiet. Outside, somewhere down the street, she could hear a car starting, a door closing, someone walking their dog, normal morning sounds. But inside her mind, everything had suddenly become louder. Opportunities have a strange way of appearing, not when life is calm, not when everything feels organized. They appear when things are uncertain, when you are not sure if you are ready, when you are still figuring things out. And that was exactly where she was in life, still figuring things out. By the time she made coffee, the email was still on her mind. The message had been simple, but the possibilities behind it felt complicated. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open. The coffee steamed slowly in the cup beside her. Outside the window, the city had started moving. People leaving for work, cars filling the street. A cyclist passing quickly between lanes of traffic. Life was already happening, and she was sitting there, thinking. That was something she had always been good at. Thinking, planning, analyzing, imagining every possible outcome before making a decision. It had helped her many times, but sometimes it also slowed her down. Because every opportunity brings two questions. The first question is simple. Do I want this? But the second question is heavier. Am I ready for this? She stared at the laptop screen again. The email was still there, waiting. She moved the mouse slowly toward the reply button. Just a few words. That was all it would take. Thank you. Yes. I would love to talk. 3 sentences, maybe less. But decisions often feel heavier than the actions required to make them. Her fingers rested on the keyboard, then stopped. What if she wasn't ready? What if they expected something she couldn't deliver? What if they realized she was still figuring things out? Fear rarely arrives with dramatic music or obvious warning signs. Sometimes fear appears quietly, disguised as caution, disguised as logic, disguised as the voice in your head saying, maybe later, maybe tomorrow, maybe when you feel more prepared. She leaned back in her chair. The coffee had cooled. The city outside continued moving. People were making decisions all around her, small ones, big ones, daily ones. And here she was, still thinking. She took a slow breath, closed her eyes for a moment, and asked herself a simple question. What was she actually afraid of? Failure? Embarrassment? Disappointment? Those things were possible. But something else was also possible. Growth, change, movement. The kind of movement that only happens when life becomes slightly uncomfortable. She opened her eyes. The email was still on the screen, waiting. Opportunities are strange like that. They don't stay forever. But sometimes they wait just long enough for someone to gather the courage to answer. She placed her fingers on the keyboard again. This time they moved, slowly, carefully. She typed the first word, then the second, then the third. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There was no music playing, no one was watching. Just a woman sitting at a kitchen table on an ordinary morning, making a decision that might change the direction of her life. She pressed send, and for the first time that morning, she smiled.